This was a very big day for our country. This was a very big day for the Republican Party. And you could say it was a great day for me, but I don't even like to say that. It's great. This was a devastating day for the Democrats.
Mueller appearing for 7 hours in front of the House Judiciary and Intelligence Committees, and he made several things extremely clear. To the millions of Americans watching, Robert Mueller said this.
Director Mueller, the president has repeatedly claimed that your report found there was no obstruction and that it completely and totally exonerated him. But that is not what your report said, is it?
Correct. It is not what the report said.
So the report did not conclude that he did not commit obstruction of justice. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And what about total exoneration? Did you actually totally exonerate the president?
No.
Now, in fact, your report expressly states that it does not exonerate the president.
It does.
And your investigation actually found, quote, multiple acts by the president that were capable of exerting undue influence over law enforcement investigations, including the Russian interference and obstruction investigations. Is that correct?
Correct.
Did the president refuse the request to be interviewed by you and your team?
Yes.
Yes. And is it true that you tried for more than a year to secure an interview with the president?
Yes.
And is it true that you and your team advised the president's lawyer that, quote, an interview with the president is vital to our investigation, close
Yes.
quote?
Yes.
And is it true that you also, quote, stated that it is in the interest of the presidency and the public for an interview to take place, close quote?
Yes.
But the president still refused to sit for an interview by you or your team?
True. True.
That exchange was chilling. President Trump, once he leaves office, could go to prison for, quote, a lot of years. They continue to discuss if convicted of some of the crimes laid out in the report after leaving office. Now, tonight, we again listen to the President of the United States dismissing the Russia investigation in his two most used tropes. But also, tonight, for the first time, we hear Robert Mueller respond to those tropes and say the president lies.
There was no defense to this ridiculous hoax, this witch hunt that's been going on for a long time.
And when Donald Trump called your investigation a witch hunt, that was also false, was it not?
I'd like to think so, yes.
Well, your investigation is not a witch hunt, is it?
It is not a witch hunt.
When the president said the Russian interference was a hoax, that was false, wasn't it?
True.
Those moments were Mueller at his best. Short, concise, not going beyond a sentence, declarative. And those moments did not require Mueller going beyond his written report. But there were a few moments he did that matter, like when he was presented with Trump's tweets celebrating WikiLeaks, a hostile intelligence force backed by Russia, helping him.
If we could put up slide 6. This just came out, WikiLeaks. I love WikiLeaks. Donald Trump, October 10th, 2016. This WikiLeaks stuff is unbelievable. It tells you the inner heart. You got to read it. Donald Trump, October 12th, 2016. This WikiLeaks is like a treasure trove. Donald Trump, October 31st, 2016. Boy, I love reading those WikiLeaks. Donald Trump, November 4th, 2016. Do any of those quotes disturb you, Mr. Director?
I'm not certain I would say.
How do you react to that?
It's probably problematic is an understatement in terms of what it displays in terms of giving some, hope or some boost to what is and should be illegal activity.
Problematic is an understatement. He said it was wrong. But then there was another side to Mueller, a witness who time and time again seemed to not be a star, tripping over himself on key findings, which is exactly what Republicans were hoping for.
In the colloquial context, known public context, collusion and conspiracy are essentially synonymous terms, correct?
No.
In that, page 180 of volume 1 of your report, it says, as defined in legal dictionaries, collusion is largely synonymous with conspiracy as that crime is set forth in General Conspiracy Statute 18 U.S.C. 371. Now, you said you chose your words carefully. Are you contradicting your report right now?
Not when I read it.
So you would change your answer to yes then?
No, if you look at the language.
I'm reading your report, sir. It's a yes or no
page,
answer.
Page 180.
Page 180, volume 1.
Okay.
This was from your report.
Correct. And I'll leave it with the report.
So the report says yes, they are synonymous.
Yes.
Hopefully for finally, out of your own report, we can put to bed the collusion and conspiracy.
Okay, that was not a great moment for Mueller, and it was questioning like that, but as the president praising his fellow Republicans' performance.
I very much appreciate those incredible warriors that you watched today on television, Republicans, that defended something and defended something very powerful.
Abby Phillip is out front live outside the White House tonight. And Abby, the president at least acting as if he is triumphant.
That's right, Aaron. The president started the day irritated by the prospect that Robert Mueller would be making a comeback in his life, appearing before the Congress to testify. But he ended it elated, thinking that this testimony was actually better for him than it was for Democrats. The president criticized Mueller, saying that he did a terrible job in the testimony, and also as special counsel, he did a victory lap over what he said was testimony that did not reveal anything new about the investigation. The president dismissed Mueller's talk of the report not exonerating President Trump by saying that Mueller had no role in exonerating the president. That's actually a shift for President Trump, who has spent months and months talking about how the report has completely and totally exonerated him. But it highlights the way in which the president and his allies view this testimony, and they viewed it this way early on as not living up to the expectations. One White House aide telling me that the Russia investigation was so over. But as President Trump answered questions today, one question seemed to stick in his craw. He was asked about the prospect that he might be potentially indicted if he left office because of that OLC opinion saying that the Justice Department can't indict a sitting president. He lashed out at those reporters and seemed to be confused about that part of Mueller's testimony. But this afternoon, the White House Press Secretary Stephanie Grisham reacted to all of this, saying Mueller wasn't just explaining that, generally speaking, a president can be charged after leaving office. Not addressing this case, she said Mueller and DOJ have made it clear that no more indictments are coming from this investigation. So a direct response there from Stephanie Grisham, the White House Press Secretary, to something that seemed to particularly irritate President Trump this afternoon when he was speaking to reporters. Aaron.
Is that correct?
All right, Abby,
is correct.
thank you very much, and certainly would on many levels, right? They went through that, if convicted with some of the charges that could come from what this report lays out, he could be going to prison for many years if convicted after serving his time in the White House. Out front now, Democratic Congresswoman Val Demings, a member of both the House Judiciary and Intelligence Committee, so she questioned Mueller twice today and had some pretty strong exchanges in both cases, Congresswoman. I appreciate your time. So President Trump came out, you heard him on the White House lawn on his way to this fundraiser. He says it was a devastating day for you Democrats. He says you have nothing, and now he says, I'm sorry, you had nothing, Congresswoman, and now you have less than nothing. Your response to the president?
Well, I almost feel that it's probably a waste of time to respond to what the president said. Look, what Special Counsel Mueller did today was to confirm a lot of things that if you have the time and the opportunity to read the report, you'll know is that Russia interfered with our election in a sweeping and systematic way, that the president tried his best to interfere with the investigation into Russia's interference, that several people around the president have been indicted or pled guilty to lying during the investigation, that the president tried to fire the special counsel, directed the White House attorney to do so. Thank God the White House attorney refused to do that, and that the report did not exonerate the president. And it really saddens me, Aaron, to hear the president talk about the Democrats being unhappy or disappointed. I can tell you right now, my colleagues and I are definitely not disappointed. And isn't it interesting that the president wouldn't comment today about Russia interfering with the election? You would think he would mention that as opposed to Democrats being disappointed. But
and to your point, Robert Mueller said that they were doing that as he spoke. They were trying to interfere. Look, we just played some extensive portions of what happened today. There were moments when Robert Mueller was very strong, and there were moments where he seemed to perhaps not be as familiar with the report as many expected. And the president seized upon that, talking about Mueller's performance. Here he is moments ago.
I don't think there's anybody that would say he did well. This was one of the worst performances in the history of our country.
Do you think Mueller did a good job today?
I think Special Counsel Mueller did exactly what we needed him to do. Look, we're talking about a man who has spent a lifetime in public service. We're talking about a 2-year-long investigation, over 448 pages of that investigation, and asking him to start at the beginning today. I believe that we ended up today exactly where we hoped we would, and that was Special Counsel Mueller confirming the most critical parts of the report and adding that in many of the president's written responses, he was not always truthful.
All right, so that was a very important moment in your questioning, Congresswoman. And let me start with something that you got him to say that frankly was shocking and, to your point, was not in the report. Let me play that exchange.
Could you say, Director Mueller, that the president was credible?
I can't answer that question.
Director Mueller, isn't it fair to say that the president's written answers were not only inadequate and incomplete because he didn't answer many of your questions, but where he did, his answers showed that he wasn't always being truthful?
I would say, generally.
So right there, Mueller's saying, if you take his answer at face value, right, that there were times the president was not being truthful in his written answers, which is a stunning thing to say. It got the president extremely angry. In fact, it was the moment of his exchanges this afternoon. And let me play what he said when asked about your exchange with Mr. Mueller.
He didn't say that at all. You're untruthful when you ask. You are untruthful. When you ask that question, you're untruthful. And you know who else is untruthful? His aides.
I don't know if you had seen that yet, Congresswoman Demings, but, pointing his finger and pointing at a reporter, no, you're untruthful for even asking that. Look, clearly your exchange with Mueller through the president. Mueller did not say the president wasn't truthful in the report. So you got him to say something that was not in the report. Were you surprised he did it?
What we do know is that the Special Counsel's office tried for over a year to get the president to sit down and do an in-person interview, which the president refused. So the president chose to do written answers, which he had a lot of time with him and his legal team to decide what to say, and still could not always find the truth in his written responses. I believe Director Mueller was extremely clear that there were times in the president's written answers that he was not truthful. And really, Aaron, that comes as no surprise to anybody.
Well, and I think we should point out, my count was 35 times, I believe, in those written answers. He said, I don't recall and I don't remember. And at the least, it would seem that some of those times that is probably not the case. I want to play another big moment that you had with Mueller during the Judiciary Committee. Congresswoman Demings, here you are.
Did other witnesses lie to you?
I think there are probably a spectrum of witnesses in terms of those who are not telling the full truth, and those are outright liars.
Thank you very much. Outright liars. It is fair to say then that there were limits on what evidence was available to your investigation of both Russia election interference and obstruction of justice.
That's true, and it's usually the case.
And that lies by Trump campaign officials and administration officials impeded your investigation.
I would generally agree with that.
Congressman, the big question is, did Trump direct those campaign and administration officials to outright lie, in the words of Robert Mueller? What does his answer tell you?
Well, his answer, and no, let's start here, Aaron. Remember, this investigation started as a counterintelligence investigation about Russia interfering with our election. Now, you would think members of the campaign and members of the administration would want to cooperate fully with that investigation. Yet, according to Director Mueller, there were several members who lied during the investigation. And so that tells me, as we indicated during the hearing, that the investigation into Russian interference and obstruction was impeded by people around the president who have no relationship or not a continuous relationship with the truth.
All right, Congresswoman Demings, thank you very much. I appreciate your coming on the show.
Thank you.
And now former Principal Associate Deputy Attorney General at the Justice Department, Robert Litt, our senior justice correspondent, Evan Perez, David Priest, who briefed then FBI Director Mueller daily as a CIA intelligence officer, former New Jersey Attorney General Ann Milgram, and David Gergen, who advised 4 presidents. Okay, thanks very much to all of you. So let's start here. Evan, as I tried to lay out in the intro, there were some really strong moments, and then there were some moments that weren't.
Were less so.
Were less so. And I'm going to get to that. But first, just the Mueller strategy. There were 206 times that you counted that Mueller did not answer questions. And just to give people a sense of what that felt like, here he is.
I'd have to pass on that. I'm not going to speak to that. I'm not going to get into those matters to which you refer.
Democrats say they knew they were going to get this, but did they really know they were going to get that?
I don't think they were quite aware of how much of this they were going to get. And I think, if you want a witness like Bob Mueller to come and have the gravitas that he has and to bring all of that, I think you also hope that, within the 4 corners of the work that Bob Mueller has produced, this 450-page report, that there is room for you to say some stuff, for you to be able to explain to the public. And